This week's Michigan Lottery Excellence in Education winner is Jason Applegate with Saginaw Arts and Science Academy. Jason, we have a video from your nominator. Let's take a look.
Mr. Applegate is a wonderful theater teacher. He teaches theater and film, and then after school devotes extra time to producing plays and doing rehearsals and taking kids to competitions and festivals. But more than any of that, I think Mr. Applegate's strongest suit is the fact that he creates an environment where students can be authentically themselves. They feel heard, they feel seen, they feel safe, and they are able to create things together. There's so many lessons that we learn from participating in sports or debate or whatever your thing is. He is the coach of the theater program there, and those students are learning cooperation and teamwork and problem solving and creativity, and he's just a wonderful leader. And then on top of all of that, he really does create an atmosphere of inclusivity and is an advocate for the students, especially for students who maybe don't have a voice themselves. He's a great teacher and a wonderful man.
What do you think, Mr. Applegate?
That was very flattering. And I think it does speak to a lot of what I'm proud about as far as an educator.
Yeah. And you teach theater and film, so you're working in a medium that really brings a lot of people together. Talk about that for me. What's that like?
Well, I mean, when you put together a show, like everybody's got to come together, right? And they all have their own parts, whether that's a part on stage with lines or whether that's a part backstage or in the booth running the lights and sound. Everybody's part is important. And so we all have to come together to tell a story. And I think that's sort of the unique thing about theater is that we tell stories. And I know our goal at SASA is that we tell stories that make our audience think and feel, and that I know we, as a society, seem to have a deficit of empathy, and I think that theater is unique in that it can create that empathy in our audience, and it can teach our students that empathy as well.
What's it like when the students understand that empathy?
I think that this generation that we have now kind of gets it anyway. I mean, they are just an empathetic generation. I think that they are more in tune with that. But I think that you can accentuate that. You can give them the opportunities to show their empathy or to grow their empathy. And when you see the kids, when you see it click, or even better, when you see them see representation that they can identify with, and you see that glow when they recognize that, there's nothing that can match that.
Absolutely. What was it like for you when you found out that you're receiving this award?
It was amazing. I mean, there are so many good educators out there, and I've known a lot of them myself. We've all had them, right? And teachers make a big difference in each other's lives. And I think over the past couple of years, you've really seen how important education is and how important the role of a teacher is in our students. And so to be nominated, coming out of this or coming out of, we're not out of it yet, but coming out of this pandemic, I think is even more flattering.
And as a theater teacher, you go above and beyond, because I know there's so much after school activities that you have to be responsible for. What keeps you motivated? What keeps you going?
I think it's, what I spoke to before, it's really the relationships with those students and seeing them grow, seeing them tell the stories that are important to them. I think, the relationships that you build in the theater program outside of the classroom in those after school environments they're just different, because you get to interact with them in a different way. You're creating art, which oftentimes will allow vulnerability that you don't typically find in a classroom setting, where both the students can become vulnerable and I am vulnerable as well. And they get to know me as more than just, that teacher at the front of the classroom.
Have you had students tell you that they want to go on and study theater after?
I do have a few students that are studying theater. Some of them are at University of Michigan doing that as well. I would say, though, that even though we have a theater concentration where these kids, they come to our school to do theater, a lot of them go on into other areas. And yet they still see the value of a theater education because of all of those skills that they learned: teamwork, problem solving, the tenacity that you have to have, the drive, the passion, and like I said before, empathy. And I think that's the most important skill that they can develop.
When a student leaves your classroom for the year or they're graduating, what do you hope that they remember you by and what you taught them?
That's a really good question. I think I want them to remember that I was authentic, that they know who I am and what I'm about. And when I said things to them, that was from the heart, and that they can believe that about themselves. I think that's what I would want more than anything else.
Yeah. Well, thank you for what you do.
Thank you.
Jason receives a $1,500 check from the Michigan Lottery, and his class at Saginaw Arts and Sciences Academy receives a $500 grant. Excellence in Education Award sponsored by the Michigan Lottery, providing more than $24.5 billion to public education since 1972.